Pablo, good to see you. How you been? Evening, Miles, CMF. Have you fully recovered now? I think so. Slight blocked nose. It came back, but sore throat is fixed. I would have to say it's slightly easy as well. But getting there is what I would say. I'm getting better, definitely. But good to see how you doing. How you been? Let's go, Joe. Good evening, Miles and Miles and all CMF. JP, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? Restream still hasn't fixed the recount. I don't know what's going on their end. Pin to profile. Okay. Hey, got an early day. I get to catch you live. Let's go, Curtis. Good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles. Any good news? T, good to see you as well. How you doing? A lot of news to go through on tonight's live. You know, as usual, we have the international news to go through on tonight's live. A lot of things have been happening, to be fairly honest, especially with this event that's been going on with Putin, Kim Jong-un, and essentially Xi Jinping. On their end, essentially Trump being left out on the BRICS nations essentially coming together, you could say. Now, let's do the intro disclaimer on what we're going to go through on tonight's live. And by that time, everyone is tuned in for the first part of the live. Hi, Miles, CMF family. Good to see you guys. Let's go for Facts News. Let's go, Cole. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do Q&As in this live as well, which means if you ever have any questions, put it down to the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, if you're regular, let's go CMF. And thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who has already liked and retweeted this live on X, if you're watching this on X right now. And thanks so much to everyone who's watching this on YouTube who's also liked the live. CMF members, if you haven't liked or retweeted this live, please like, please retweet, and please leave a comment outside the live because it really does help build the algorithm. Hashtag anything you want relatable to cryptocurrencies. If you know, hashtag Trump, hashtag XRP, hashtag Ripple, whatever you want to go for. Leave a comment outside the live, drop a like and a retweet. I appreciate it so much when everybody likes and retweets, honestly. Now, mixture of news to go through on tonight's live. We have the federal news, essentially, the Federal Reserve news to go through on tonight's live. We have some news announcements of major tokenization, essentially, sectors happening inside the crypto space to go through on tonight's live. We have some announcements to go through on tonight's live. We have some rate cut news to go through on tonight's lives. Some CEO perspectives to go through on tonight's live. Stock market getting more tokenized to go through on tonight's live as well. Of course, we always have the Ripple news to go through on tonight's live, as usual. Some CFTC, some SEC news to go through on tonight's live also. The first one we're going to be starting off with is the Federal Reserve. Before we go for the Federal Reserve news, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news. And by the way, there's not 9 people watching this live. It's just Restream still hasn't fixed the count. It just randomly shows 9 people. It'll probably show 8 people and then 10 people, and it's just not the real viewership count. There's a lot more than 9 people watching, but hopefully Restream fixes it sometime this year. Now, good evening, Miles and CMF. How you doing? I'm doing great, Carlos. Good to see you as well. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. Morning. How you doing? How you been? What up, Miles and CMF? Ray, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. How you doing today? I'm doing great. Let's go, Carlos. Miles, what do you think about the crypto essentially project Ava? It's a good project. You know, it seems legitimate. There's nothing wrong with it. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening, Miles. How's things? Things are great. Good to see you as well. Autistic. How you doing? Now, the first news on tonight's live regarding the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve to host Payments Innovation Conference on October 21st. The U.S. Federal Reserve has announced today that it will host a conference on payments innovation on Tuesday, October 21st in Washington, D.C. The event will bring together experts from banks, businesses, and tech companies to talk about how to make payments faster, safer, and more useful for everyone. This is incredible news from the Fed coming out that they're essentially interested in the idea of, introducing the idea of tech companies and banks being on the same table to discuss how to make payments safer, faster, and so on. According to the announcement, the conference will have different panel talks on new ideas of finance. These topics will include how traditional finance is starting to connect with decentralized finance and new ways of stablecoins can be used in businesses. It will also include how artificial intelligence is being used in payments and how artificial essentially products can be changed into digital tokens. Now, the reference essentially will be shown live on Federal Reserve's website, and more information will be shared in the coming weeks until we get to 21st of October. Meanwhile, Governor Christopher J. Waller recently spoke out essentially about the meeting. He said that the change has always been a part of the payments. Innovation has been a consistent essentially in payments to meet the changing needs of consumers and businesses. Waller said he added that he wants to hear about the chances and risks of new technology and how it can help improve safety and efficiency in the payment systems. The Federal Reserve has already been active in modernizing payments. In July 2023, it launched the FedNow service, which allows real-time payments, and today, FedNow has about 1,400 banks using it, and it handles about $2.7 billion every day. The Fed also runs the Fed Wire Fund service and essentially helps manage the ACH systems together with the clearinghouse. Governor Waller also has spoken about the digital assets. Last month, he said that buying crypto with stablecoins through smart contracts is basically the same as paying with a debit card at a store. He explained that tools like tokenization and distributed ledgers should not be seen as strange, but instead as a new ways that could be a part of a normal payments in the future. Waller said the Fed should connect more with private businesses that are essentially leading innovation. It is my belief that the Federal Reserve could benefit from further engagements and essentially with innovators in the industry. Waller said he also mentioned that stablecoins are an example of how the market itself creates new solutions for payments. It's honestly great to see how the Fed has become more and more pro-crypto. Could be the pressure that the Trump administration or Trump himself is putting on the Fed to become more crypto every day, essentially every day that goes by. But the Fed doing some sort of a crypto banking event essentially on October 21st, very interesting and incredibly amazing, to be fairly honest. Now, moving on from the Fed, which, I mean, honestly, this is extremely bullish news coming out of the Fed. But moving on from the Fed to Ondo Finance. Ondo Finance is launching on-chain US stocks and ETFs. Ondo Finance has launched Ondo Global Markets, listing over 100 tokenized US stocks and ETFs on Ethereum for non-US investors. The initiative, essentially with Alpicha essentially partnership, pioneers real-world assets, essentially tokenizations, offering liquidity similar to traditional finance. Ondo Finance has launched over 100 tokenized US stocks and ETFs on Ethereum blockchain, starting a new initiative targeting primarily non-US investors only, starting with. Now, regarding Ondo Finance, key players include Ondo Finance and their brokerage partners Alpichas, whose infrastructure supports the custody and execution of these assets. Alpicha facilitates essentially institutional-grade compliance with registered broker deal status. This is what they said. Our collaboration with Ondo Finance ensures that their tokenized assets are supported by compliance and trusted brokerage infrastructure firm, said Yoshi, the CEO of Alpicha. The initiative immediately essentially includes improving liquidity for investors, utilizing wallets such as essentially Trust Wallet to enhance currency access. The project also essentially marks a precedent in the tokenized asset sector parallel to traditional finance liquidity, while fostering essentially financial innovation. The move also includes the US, the UK, and the EEA participants due to regulatory reasons. The platform promises the change of the financial landscape by providing real-time on-chain liquidity options. The involvement with Ethereum as the initial supported network may increase Ethereum's DeFi activities. Also, this project represents a pioneering effort in bringing traditional and crypto financial markets globally together. Long-term outcomes could include greater cross-chain essentially asset compatibility and enhanced also global trade efficiencies. Historical trends also suggest potential growth for governance, tokens, and widened adoption for real-world asset tokenization. With Wall Street 2.0 is essentially what they're mentioning is Wall Street 2.0 is here. Ondo Finance Global Markets is now live, providing one of the largest ever selections of tokenized US stocks and ETFs on-chain with liquidity of traditional finance starting on Ethereum. 100 plus assets now live with 100 more essentially on the way. So in other words, Ondo Finance is definitely going to be expanding, most likely on also not just on essentially expanding on their stock range, but also expanding on their tokens, essentially their backbone of their tokenization of the stock market for outside the United States. But again, I love to see essentially the traditional financial market space connecting to the DeFi space, and connected to the digital space, the blockchain space, and so on. Great to see that happening day by day. Moving on from Ondo Finance to Crypto.com. Crypto.com's CEO forecast Fed rate cut is going to be happening, and it's going to boost the crypto markets in Q4 of this year. Crypto.com's CEO Chris is optimistic about the essentially a robust cryptocurrency market in the fourth quarter, driven by expectations of a U.S. Federal Reserve interest rate cut. Now, Chris, CEO of Crypto.com, he doesn't give that many speeches, to be fairly honest. So it's interesting he's stepping out and saying essentially we should be expecting some sort of a rate cut in the fourth quarter of this year. In his eyes, in a recent Bloomberg interview, he highlighted that Crypto.com's revenue could see a significant improvement this year, especially if the Fed reduces the rates. In Q4, experiences and a strong essentially growth happening inside the crypto market space. If we do get a rate cut, that will definitely happen. He anticipates that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates at the upcoming September 17th meeting, which traditionally benefits cryptos by borrowing cheaper and increasing liquidity for higher risk investments. Historical data from last year's Fed rate cuts from 5.5% to 4.5% between September and December shows that the crypto market soared about 57% during this time period. Additionally, CME futures and prediction markets have also surged to a 91.7% probability for rate cuts following the Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech at a Jackson Hole, which was his ever Jackson Hole event regarding Jerome Powell, which the indication that we should be expecting some sort of rate cut. And that's why the CEO of Crypto.com is now coming out and saying we should be seeing a rate cut happening in September. And when it does happen, well, crypto is going to go ballistic because we haven't had a rate cut for such a long time. And when we do have rate cuts, it's pretty much the simplest way to put it is an indication of the traditional market space struggling, which risky and alternative market spaces become, primed for investments and liquidity. Chris, speaking on essentially Bloomberg TV, confirmed that while Crypto.com has the official metrics to go public, no official decisions has also been made regarding their IPO yet, as the company value remains private. He noted that the appeal of considering an IPO, given that many crypto companies have successfully raised billions through public listings this year. Last year, Crypto.com posted essentially $1.5 billion of revenue, $1 billion in gross profits, and $700 million reinvested, expecting better performance this year. Moreover, Crypto.com is planning to expand into production markets. Chris believes that these markets will become a significant sector beyond just sports, aiming to establish Crypto.com as a primary liquidity hub for the US-based prediction markets. Currently, blockchain prediction platforms like Polymarket, for example, and Kalski lead the space but face regulatory challenges in the US in recent news. But Crypto.com announced a partnership with Trump Media and Technology Group owner of Truth Social platform, focusing on treasury strategies for their native token Kronos, which we talked about in essentially last week regarding the Trump family getting involved with Crypto.com. But putting all that to one side, all we care about right now is rate cuts. There are more and more CEOs day by day coming out, and some major analysts coming out and suggesting that we should be seeing that rate cut happening in September. I just hope it does happen, because when it does happen, the market is going to go ballistic. I mean, there are so many good things to happen essentially this month going forward, with not just the rate cuts, but also the Clarity Act is at the end of the month for voting. We get the Clarity Act, we get rate cuts. Things are going to be beautiful. And then next month, we're going to have essentially the Fed with tech companies and banks on the same table, talking and discussing what could they do going forward for payments and innovation even better. The world is going the direction we wanted to go. It just took a little bit of time due to the amount of essentially geopolitical tensions that were going on. But also the world needed a foundation to go forward on, and we didn't have a foundation inside of crypto space, to be fairly honest. America wasn't standing on no foundation regarding crypto space due to, well, the previous administration doing absolutely nothing for the crypto space. So Trump had to do a lot of foundation building, let's say, for the crypto space before we got to stages of where the SEC, the CFTC, the FDIC, the OCC, the FBIC, all of these departments being pro-crypto, coming in, essentially bringing their own innovation or creating their own crypto teams, like the CFTC with Project Crypto, so on, the SEC creating a crypto initiative team, and now having, the SEC go around the country, go around the different states in America doing crypto events, or the CFTC, or in this case, essentially the Fed having a sit down with crypto companies, the White House doing essentially crypto speeches. So the foundation is being built as we speak, to be fairly honest, but we didn't have any of this. So that's why it took a little bit of time to get where we are, but things are moving, is what I would have to say. Now, Galaxy Digital is what we're going to talk about next. Also relatable to tokenization. But before we talk about Galaxy Digital, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's going on in there, and then we'll go straight into the next news. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or statements, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we were at inside the comment section. We were at here, I think. Yeah. Evening, Miles. How's things? Autistic. Good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Great times ahead. Facts. Let's go, Paul. Great times definitely ahead. Sorry, just switched over from X to YouTube. No problem, Funky brother. Hey, Miles, the CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? Someone just put ETH with a laughing emoji. Evening, Miles, the CMF. Jason, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Anything to worry about with China, North Korea, and Russia's friendship? And is BRICS making a comeback? Joe, great question. Is BRICS making a comeback? Well, it seems like BRICS is working silently, you could say, behind the scenes, especially with the 2-hour closed-door meeting that the United States was not invited to in any sort of a way. Trump was not happy, you could tell from his Truth Social post when he was saying, say hi to Putin and Kim Jong-un and essentially Xi Jinping and so on. He was just remarking it as a joke. But is BRICS making a comeback? BRICS would love to make a comeback, to be fairly honest. But all these countries will move on to alternative payment systems. It might not be a united, essentially, BRICS token, but they'll eventually move on to essentially a different payment system because the world's going digital. So the idea of SWIFT still being able to work in that type of world is just not going to happen. As I said previously, SWIFT is not a payments, essentially messaging standard or a payment tool. It's a political tool. SWIFT goes around sanctions countries, and that's the biggest downfall of SWIFT. That's it, full stop. The biggest downfall of SWIFT is not that because it's slow or expensive, because it's been slow and expensive for the longest time, people still use it. What was the biggest downfall of SWIFT on a major scale was the sanctioning situation, where it goes around and essentially sanctions countries because they're told to sanction those countries from using their payment systems. And that's why essentially those countries, even if they don't move on to a BRICS type of payment system or a one token world type of scenario, they're still going to be moving on to a different payment system, is what I would have to say. So is BRICS making a comeback? Yes and no. The no part is no, it's not going to be BRICS that's making a comeback, but the yes part is those countries are definitely moving on to another payment system. Hello, Woodhouse, good to see you. How you doing? I was wondering the same thing. As what Joe. Oh. Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello everyone, good to see you. Denise, how you doing? Golden Dragon, good to see you. How you doing? Finally, I got my father on the right path. He has brought XRP for the first time. Let's go, Woodhouse. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great, Kali. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? But yeah, that meeting that was going on, Trump was not happy about it whatsoever. Okay, Galaxy Digital, tokenization. So, Galaxy Digital tokenizes GLXY, which is their ticker for their company on the open market, and their shares have been tokenized on Solana's blockchain. Galaxy Digital has officially tokenized its Nasdaq-listed Class A shares on Solana's blockchain. The company worked with essentially fintech company Superstate to help verify investors convert and hold real equity tokens on chain. These token shares have no dilution essentially and meet the requirements of US securities laws. The projects also essentially built on Superstate's open bell platform, which syncs shareholders essentially records on chain in real time. The new structure is faster to settle and enables 24/7 trading between approved KYC compliant investors. Galaxy is the first public company to tokenize equities registered with the SEC directly on a public blockchain. Unlike synthetic essentially products, these tokens are actual shares or issued by the issuer and recorded by registered essentially by the TFA. Galaxy essentially emphasized the essentially utilization of a verified essentially contract address to prevent the generation of counterfeit tokens. Galaxy chose the Solana network for its scalable, low fees, and ability to provide real-time settlements. The decision is consistent essentially with the firm's commitment to efficient and transparent capital markets. Solana currently has essentially quite a large essentially amount of liquidity within itself. Ownership also transfers of the GLXY shares now update instantly on chain through Superstate transfers agent system. This system removes the need for traditional intermediaries and helps ensure regulatory compliance. Tokenized shares will only be accessible to investors who have completed a full KYC verification. These users will be able to hold and trade shares directly from their essentially self-custody crypto wallets. Galaxy is investigating how these can be combined on-chain with automated market makers. The next phase will be determined by regulatory frameworks under the SEC's Project Crypto initiative. Galaxy's tokenization initiative fits within its broader essentially vision of integrating traditional finance with blockchain-based infrastructure. The company also believes on-chain equity is a scalable solution in modern markets. Superstate, a company owned by Galaxy Ventures, is the SEC-registered agent for the shareholder records. This move further solidifies essentially Galaxy positions as a driving force in the development of future tokenized crypto markets. The effort may essentially inspire other public companies to consider tokenization as a way to enable essentially regulatory compliant trading. Tokenized equities currently accounts for with essentially over $337 million in the overall $27.8 billion real-world asset market space. The GLXY stock price rose by more than 4% today after the announcement of tokenization, which is strong market reaction. The tokenization comes after Galaxy's partnership with Jump and Multicoin to create a Solana treasury of $1 billion. Look, regarding essentially institutions tokenizing their stocks, brilliant idea. The idea of tokenization of stocks, amazing idea, and so on. But the idea of each company tokenizing their stocks on a different chain is just going to create confusion. So it's always better when it comes to tokenization if essentially, companies like Coinbase or essentially Binance or Crypto.com in this sense, be the ones to lead for essentially tokenization, or even essentially Ripple could be the one to lead for tokenizations. But the idea of essentially, for example, Galaxy choosing Solana, another firm choosing essentially Ethereum, another firm choosing XRP, another firm choosing XLM, another firm choosing AVAX, another firm choosing this and this and that. It's just going to create so much confusion inside the stock market. But if they were all under the same bubble, it would stop the confusion. What I mean is you'll find out later on. It's just like the idea that every bank wants to create their own essentially stable coin. It's just going to create confusion. As Hong Kong put it best, you only need 2 to 3 US dollar stable coins. You don't need 25 different versions of the US dollars, because that just creates confusion, because then they'll just become novelty items rather than actual stable coins or tokens of value in any sort of a way, or pegged to the dollar. So either way, great, amazing. Traditional market space connecting to the digital world. But preferably for them to be under the same bubble would be better, is what I would have to say. Same hood or same essentially group. Now, US regulators. Open door for spot crypto trading on regulated exchanges. This is quite a big announcement coming from the SEC, to be fairly honest. Before we talk about this, let's go start the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live as always, which means if you do have any questions or comments, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section. Hi, Miles here. Gordon, good to see you. Denise, hello everyone. Good to see you as well. How you doing? I think I read it up to here, didn't I? Yep. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great, Callie. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Now, could Jerome Powell not do rate cuts in September just to spite Trump over Lisa Cook? Yes, I said this is a possibility of happening. If Jerome Powell doesn't want to do rate cuts, then it doesn't have to, because he is the Fed chairman and his word is pretty much the final verdict, let's say. Even though there are 2 members in the Fed who disagree with Jerome Powell and think that we should be doing rate cuts. But at the end of the day, it's what Jerome Powell says. Yes, they do a vote, but let's just be honest, is what Jerome Powell has to say. Same scenario with essentially SEC and Gary Gensler. Nobody inside the SEC, and there were members inside the SEC that said they don't want to go after crypto companies, but they're pretty much forced by Gary Gensler to go after crypto companies. Even essentially the crypto mum inside the SEC said they don't want to go after crypto companies, and she even stood up for Ripple once. But again, it was the final verdict was with Gary Gensler. So if he wants to, Jerome Powell, he could say, I don't want to do rate cuts, and just do it out of spite against Donald Trump. Some people will say, well, no, he won't do it out of spite. That's essentially unprofessional. Nobody does that. It's based on data and economics. Let's just be honest with ourselves. That's la la land. We live in the real world. The real world is basically politics, greed, and so many other factors in play. And if Jerome Powell wants to, he could essentially say, yeah, no rate cuts. But here's the thing. At the end of the month, we're also going to be having the Clarity Act passing through. So even if Jerome Powell doesn't do rate cuts and the market goes down, the market will come back up on essentially on the Clarity Act passing through. So mid-month will be rate cuts. If we don't get a rate cut, the market goes down. End of the month is the Clarity Act. The market goes back up. Something has to always push the market down. Something has to always push the market up, because the house has to win in between due to leverage trading. Because the house can't afford to pay out 24/7, so they have to win in between. The oldest saying in the book, the house has to always win. But yes, he could, and I said this previously before, he could say, nope, I don't want to do rate cuts. It's a possibility, because it has an outcome. KYC verification, know your customers. So in other words, background ID check. Let's just say for simplest factor, it could be just ID check, it could be background check, it could be bank statements in some cases, but that's what it basically means, just ID check to be able to go forward. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles. What's the logo on your mug? The logo on my mug is CoinMove. Can you see it? Oh, no, the ring light is not visible to it, but yeah, there we go. It's the CoinMove logo, CoinMove.one, which is my startup company, a blockchain startup company, relatable to real estate and the XRP ledger. Now, US regulators open the door for spot crypto trading on regulated exchanges. Regulated exchange platforms can now conduct spot cryptocurrency trading activities according to a joint statement by the US SEC and the CFTC. Today, this policy shift marks essentially a key regulatory step that could help drive crypto trading and promote investor protection. The statement from both of these agencies clarified that existing laws does not stop regulated exchanges, both on the US soil and abroad, from listing spot crypto products, including those with leverage and margin essentially features. As the disclosure states, this includes exchanges such as the National Securities Exchange, designated contract markets, and the foreign boards of trade. Regulators mentioned they are prepared to re-examine exchange filings and look into also questions regarding ownership and clearing of crypto assets. This is great that this is happening now before we get to the Clarity Act by the end of the month. They further emphasize the need for new spot markets to adhere to regulatory standards. Meanwhile, investors and industry stakeholders were urged to contact the SEC or CFTC with questions and proposals. Today, the divisions provide their views that the DCM, the FBOT, and the NSE are not prohibited from facilitating the trading of certain spot crypto asset products. Market participants also are invited to engage with the SEC staff and the CFTC as needed. The SEC and the CFTC's joint statement, this move is a part of the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets, efforts to improve clarity over digital assets and drive blockchain innovation. Acting CFTC Chair Caroline Pham maintained that the US has moved past the regulatory essentially hesitation era. She also called on the country to position itself as a leading nation inside the crypto space. Recently, the CFTC has also taken a softer stance, listed essentially on the spot, essentially crypto contracts on futures exchanges in August. Crypto commentators believe that these recent moves could help drive institutional adoption as regulated exchanges provide improved security and oversight compared to the offshore platforms. The recent statements by the CFTC and the SEC indicates that traditional finance bodies can essentially join crypto exchanges such as Coinbase and Kraken to pursue spot trading options. As clarified by the staff guidance, top regulated platforms such as the New York Stock Exchange, the Chicago essentially markets, the global markets, the CME markets, the NASDAQ, alongside other CFTC recognized exchanges, can offer spot crypto trading products. This is incredible news. The idea of the traditional market space once again connected to the blockchain space on that sort of level is crazy. Under the current administration, lawmakers and the White House have laid the groundwork for clear rules regarding crypto assets. Recent essentially efforts by Congress include the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, alongside the President's Working Group report. The recent regulatory essentially headway could help exchanges meet the growing demand for crypto trading. At the same time, it signals the intention of regulatory bodies to allow a transparent, secure, and improved crypto trading environment. So, in other words, the SEC and CFTC clarified that regulated exchanges can facilitate spot cryptocurrency trading under current laws. Guidance applies to the NSE, DCMs, and FBOTs, allowing expanded crypto products offerings with oversight. Regulators stress the importance of compliance, investor protection, and market transparency in these spot markets. The move also aligns with the US efforts to strengthen crypto rules, foster innovation, and encourage institutional adoption. This honestly is incredible news. The CFTC and the SEC are actually putting in work that's going to be improving the market space, the traditional market space, connecting even further with the blockchain. And again, we're getting very close to the Clarity Act happening as well. And also, this is an indication that, the SEC is actually getting ready in some sort of a way to approve those ETFs. So Eric and James from Bloomberg, the ETF specialist analyst, who were very on the money when it came to Bitcoin ETFs, when everybody else said Bitcoin ETFs is going to take a while for it to happen, and Eric and James predicted the exact day it's going to be happening according to their own sources. You fast forward to today, essentially when Eric and James suggested that 95% approval rate for XRP spots ETFs to be happening this year, alongside Solana ETFs around 90 to 85%, seems like it's going to be a reality regarding XRP ETFs this year. Because with that news, the SEC and CFTC being a bit more lenient, opening their doors towards the stock market, towards the crypto markets, towards crypto exchanges, it shows that also going to Clarity Act, we're not that far off from altcoin ETFs happening this year. Not every single one of them, but some of them are going to pass through the gates. Now, the global crypto boom is what we talk about next. If you've ever wondered to yourself, which country is in the rankings in terms of how much innovation they've brought to the table, which country is a lot more further in connecting the traditional financial space to essentially the digital space, well, I have an updated essentially report for you. This is the 2025 report on the global crypto essentially boom. So 2025 adoption index shows explosive growth for cryptocurrencies. From institutional giants in the US to grassroots adoption across Asia and Latin America, crypto usage has expanded across nearly every income bracket, signaling a new phase of global integration. The index, which ranks 151 countries, 151 countries are now involved inside the digital space. And there are still people around you that might tell you crypto is a scam, even though there are 151 countries are now involved. Combines data from centralized exchanges, decentralized finance, and institutional transfers, and scores are essentially weighted against purchasing power, population size, and transaction types, creating a picture of how everyday users, retail investors, and large-scale institutions interact with crypto. India, for example, scored the top spot for the third consecutive year, with activity spanning in terms of retail, institutional, and DeFi channels. The US advanced to second place. That is impressive because the US was 11th. Last year, the US was ranking 11th in terms of crypto innovation. This year, so far, the US is ranking second now. The US advanced to second place, buoyed by regulatory clarity and surging inflows into spot Bitcoin ETFs, while Pakistan, Vietnam, and Brazil rounded out into the top 5. Asia Pacific stand out essentially as the fastest growing region, with transaction volume soaring 69% year over year to $2.36 trillion. Latin America followed closely with 63% growth in terms of cryptocurrencies, fueled by a mix of remittance usage and institutional entry. Even sub-Saharan essentially Africa, where crypto often serves as a lifeline for payments, posted 52% growth. So, in terms of crypto growth around the market, around the world, Latin America essentially is sitting around 69% growth. Asia is sitting around 63% growth. And Africa is sitting around 52% growth in terms of the crypto space. This year's index underwent essentially 2 major changes. Chainalysis dropped essentially its retail DeFi metrics, noting that activity there represents a much smaller share of the total usage than previously assumed. At the same time, a new institutional activity sub-index was introduced to capture the rising role of the hedge funds, the custodians, and the asset managers, with any transfers above $1 million falling into this category. Chainalysis, which is essentially what a lot of people inside the crypto space and even companies rely on. They are the Moody's of the crypto exchange, essentially of the crypto world. Let's be very honest with ourselves. How Moody's is for Wall Street is how Chainalysis is for the crypto space. And they also essentially is the live not working on X? Just out of curiosity, if you're watching this on X right now, CMF members, drop a thumbs up. I just want to see if it works on X. Live seems to have gone on X, so I moved to YouTube. CMF members, can you see me on X? If you're watching this on X right now, can you hear me and see me on X? Throw a thumbs up or thumbs down. Sometimes it cuts out for some people, sometimes it cuts out in general. I just want to see where we stand. We're good? We're good? Okay. Okay, thank you for that, bro. Okay. It's not working on X. Okay, for some people it's not working on X. For some people it is working on X. That's a strange one. Hopefully it'll get fixed as the live goes on. Now, hopefully it gets fixed as the live goes on. Now, according to Chainalysis, these adjustments better reflect the balance between grassroots adoption and top, essentially down, institutional flows, offering a more accurate snapshot of how crypto has matured. Chainalysis realized that we are moving from a retail market space to an institutional market space, which is why they created an institutional index to be able to tell in terms of usage when it comes to cryptocurrencies on that type of scale, and that their retail essentially usage is pretty much forgotten about regarding their indexes. But their essentially institutional index is what they're mostly focused on, realizing that that's where the world is heading. We're heading towards a regulated institutional market space for cryptocurrencies. When measured against population, the leaderboard looks very different. Ukraine, Moldova, essentially Georgia ranked highest, highlighting regions where crypto has become a practical alternative to unstable banking systems or inflation-prone currencies. Chainalysis pointed to the distrust essentially in traditional institutions and strong technical literacy as key drivers in Eastern Europe's grassroots surge. Stablecoins remain at the center of the digital economy, with USDT and USDC and RLUSD also processing essentially, in terms of USDT and USDC, processing in trillions in monthly, yet smaller players are catching up. Circle's Euro-backed EuroC expanded nearly 90% month over month over the past year, driven by essentially Europe's MiCA framework. PayPal's PYUSD also gained traction, showing growing essentially appeal of highly regulated alternatives. Mainstream finance is embracing the trend. Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe are now integrating stablecoin payments into traditional rails, while banks like Citi and Bank of America are exploring their own digital currency offerings. Chainalysis' new data shows adoption rising in lockstep, essentially across high income, middle income, and emerging economies. In maturing markets, institutional infrastructure is driving inflows, while in developing regions, stablecoins and remittances provide critical utility. The only exception lies in low-income nations, where adoption has proven more volatile, often essentially disrupted by policy shocks or infrastructure limitations. Still, the broader trend points to crypto becoming a global phenomenon, one no longer dominated by speculation alone, but increasingly tied to real-world use cases. This is honestly great to see that, regarding Chainlance's report, regarding the newest report that's come out today, where essentially we can tell now how much crypto has grown. The data now that's coming through is from 151 countries. And again, there are people still that might be around you in terms of work colleagues or family members who still don't believe in cryptocurrencies. But 151 countries are now involved inside digital space in some sort of sector. And then we can see the growth happening with 69% growth happening in Latin American countries, essentially 63% essentially also happening in Asian countries, 52% growth also happening essentially in South African countries. It's honestly amazing to see how far crypto has come from a very speculative essentially era to now taking over, you could pretty much say. Now, and a long time ago, if something like this was said, people would say, oh, that means we've reached the top, everybody jump out. But things are a lot more different now. Going to regulations with the amount of institutions and the banks day by day getting involved, more institutions day by day getting involved, more governments getting involved, or governments expanding, or regulations expanding, or licenses expanding, and so on. It's incredible, honestly, from where we've come, from speculative, nobody wants to touch it, scam, pyramid scheme crypto, to now taking over. Now, Binance is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about Binance, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means, as always, if you have any questions or statements, put it down to the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we're at inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news on tonight's live. We were at here. Good evening, Miles, CMF. Manny, good to see you. How you doing, Manny? How you been? Hi, Miles. What's the logo? I'll read it down. Why is Emmanuel Macron telling his country to prepare for a war by March 2026? Great question, Joe. The reason why Emmanuel Macron, or as I like to call him, Weasel Macron, is preparing his country for a war, is because his government's on the verge of collapse. So the European Central Bank has to either print more money and bail out France, or France is going to start a war. And the reason why France will start a war is because their government is on the verge of collapse. Their economy is on the verge of collapse. If they start a war, Macron can still remain in power. If they run out of money, they can blame it on the war. If their economy crashes, they can blame it on the war. But the idea of Macron being blamed for France's economy just going, he doesn't want that on himself. He would rather have his country in war, his people suffering, for him just to turn around and say, well, France is struggling because we're in a war. Not because, I failed as a leader of France to maintain the money. No. France is struggling because we're going into a war. Because we're in a war, that's why the economy is struggling. And as dumb as that might sound, people in France will eat that up. Not everybody. There are a lot of intelligent people everywhere around the world. But the majority of people are stupid. And that's why the world is the way it is. Because one, people are forgetful. That's why history will always repeat itself. And two, if the majority weren't stupid, well, then we wouldn't be living in a world like this, would we now? The minority are intelligent, the majority are stupid. The majority are followers, the minority are thinkers. Now, that is why Macron wants his country to go into war. If the European Central Bank doesn't bail him out, he will start some sort of a war because he has no choice. His economy, honestly, the French economy is about to crash. 3 years ago, I said during these lives that France's real estate market space is on the verge of collapse. 3 years ago, I said this. I said France's real estate market space is on the verge of collapse. And if they don't get a grip on it, France is going to be slipping even worse. I said this 3 years ago. You fast forward 3 years from what I said to now. What does France do in that 3 years? Do they try to fix their economy? No. They just dig a much more deeper hole for themselves. Spent money that they didn't have, and also open their country's doors to an immense amount of immigration, which they can't handle. So not only has he lowered his country's safety, but also there's no more money in the bank. The guy's an absolute moron. He's a little weasel is what he is. And, well, if the European Central Bank doesn't bail him out, honestly, if the European Central Bank doesn't bail him out, Macron is going to be the next Kim Jong-un, but European style, pretty much, to be fairly honest. Honestly, Macron is going to be Macron Kim Jong-un if the European Central Bank doesn't bail out his country. Hi, Miles. But they do have time until 2030 or 32 to sort their finances out. Hi, Miles. How are you doing today? I'm doing great, Michael. Good to see you. How you doing? What's your thoughts on BitGet token? BitGet, good exchange. Token could have some value later on in life. I wouldn't say it's a must-have project and it's sort of a must-have token. I'd probably leave my focus somewhere else, is what I would say. But legitimate exchange, legitimate token. Nothing wrong with it, as far as I know. Hi, Miles. When you think bull run is taking very long time? Johnny, we're not that far off. Any key dates for something to kick off? Yes, Clarity Act, end of this month. Rate cut, probably this month. See you around. It's not working. Okay. Hello, Miles. It's CMF. Scott, good to see you, brother. How you doing? I hope that everyone had a good day today. Let's go, Scott. How you doing? Miles, what can I do with 6,000 XRP? Is this enough or still need to hold 5 years for profits? It's a great amount to have. Give it a little bit of time. Let's go XRP, XLM, XDC. Let's go, Scott. Why XDC not me? Give it time, Johnny. It will. Sorry to be late. No problem, Scott. Anytime. The best crypto family online. Let's go, Scott. Thanks so much for the kind words. The new year is 119 days away. Hold on, folks, because we're about to do something great. Let's go, facts. Will Europe be dragged into a war with France? If France does something stupid, let's just be honest, it's not France, it's Macron. If Macron does something stupid to start a war with Russia and, pour more fuel on the fire already with Ukraine's situation of Russia, Europe has no choice but to get involved, and then NATO has to get involved. So France could be the one that initiates a war type of scenario to be happening. But knowing Trump, he will never back France at the beginning. He will never back France at the beginning in any sort of a way. Towards the end, he will back it if it ever escalates to those types of scenarios. So here's what essentially is going to be happening. The European Central Bank has no choice but to bail out Macron and France. Because if they don't, somewhere down the road, they'll be dragged into a war, which will cost the European Central Bank even more money than just bailing out France in the meantime. So it's better for them to bail out France, and Macron knows this, but he's still using the threat of war to make the European Central Bank move quicker on printing money. So it's cheaper for them to bail out France than going into full-on war with Russia. Now, Trust Wallet is what we talk about next. Binance, essentially, Binance-linked Trust Wallet adds tokenized stocks and ETFs. Trust Wallet, the self-custodian crypto app essentially owned by Binance, co-founder CZ, has just launched support for tokenized US stocks and ETFs. If you didn't know that, now you know. Binance, essentially, Trust Wallet is now offering ETFs, if anybody's interested. The integration announced essentially today makes Trust Wallet one of the first self-custodian essentially apps to bridge traditional financial securities with blockchain-based wallets. The rollout is being delivered essentially in a partnership with Ondo Finance, which we talked about a little bit earlier on tonight's live, and 1inch, which supplies decentralized exchange infrastructure to manage liquidity and execution. Initially, assets are available on Ethereum with Solana integration planned for later, and other blockchains also included. Integrating real-world assets into self-custodial wallets is an important step in making global finance more open and efficient, essentially said Chen, the CEO of Trust Wallet. The bigger picture is how blockchain essentially accesses to the financial markets and lays the foundation for a more exclusive future ahead of ourselves. Through the partnership, users can buy tokenized shares, ETFs, and even bonds directly from their wallets with a minimum investment of $1. Unlike traditional brokerage accounts, there are no local account setups or document requirements. Ondo provides the tokenized assets while 1inch Fusion Engine manages trading efficiency. As Trust Wallet's Sami essentially put it, Ondo brings the assets, 1inch powers the rails, and Trust Wallet makes it accessible in self-custody. However, limitations also remain. Tokenized, essentially real-world assets products are restricted inside the United States and the United Kingdom and the European Economic Area. In trading areas, essentially trading hours follows the US market sessions, Monday to Friday, 1:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. UTC time. The company said it is exploring 24/7 access and advanced order types, including limit orders. Analysts point out that the tokenized real-world assets don't eliminate the need for trust in issuers. Your key essentially secures the tokens, but the underlying asset remains with an issuer, said Lucen from Trezo. That means self-custody works technically, but trust is the issuer and essentially the key part. The move positions Trust Wallet at the insertion of decentralized finance and traditional markets for retail users, the ability to hold tokenized stocks and ETFs alongside cryptocurrencies, removes a layer of friction and globalizes access to assets historically gated by brokerage firms and regulators. Brokerage firms are not happy about this. They actually hate tokenization. All brokerage firms hate tokenization because it's going to put them out of business, because we don't longer need brokerage firms to be able to access ETFs and essentially tokenized stocks and bonds if Trust Wallet is just going to be offering them to us, to be fairly honest. Why the hell would we need a brokerage firm? Why would anyone need to go to a brokerage firm if I could just buy an essentially ETF or essentially a bond or a tokenized asset through Trust Wallet? Anybody can do it. You can do it with $1. And you don't need to require any sort of documents or get a brokerage firm to pay a fee to in any sort of a way. The same scenario with banks. Why would you need a bank in a digital world where you could just do wallet-to-wallet transactions? It also reflects a larger industry push into real-world asset tokenizations, one of the fastest essentially growing narratives in cryptocurrencies right now, with major players like BlackRock and Franklin Templeton exploring tokenized funds. Trust Wallet's integration shows how retail apps are adapting to bring these instruments into self-custody. Trust Wallet says this rollout is the first step with plans to add more real-world asset providers and liquidity sources over time. The roadmap includes also potentially expanding other blockchains, as well as adding features to making trading more flexible. Long-term, the company envisions becoming a gateway where retail investors can hold, trade, and invest in both crypto natives and traditional assets in one platform. For now, the launch highlights how crypto wallets are evolving beyond storage and swaps into full-spectrum financial access tools. If essentially adoption grows, self-custody wallets could challenge brokerage firms, not just for crypto investors, but for the global retail participation in traditional equity and ETF markets. Some things inside the traditional market space can update themselves and essentially join the crypto space, the digital world that we're heading towards. Some things inside the traditional market space are just going to be left behind. And brokerage firms are one of those things that's just going to be left behind if more crypto wallet firms, essentially Trust Wallet, let's say, or essentially Tangem or Ledger or Trezo, start offering ETFs, bonds directly through their wallets, or essentially tokenization of stocks and cryptocurrencies, then we don't really need brokerage firms ever again. So some things will genuinely get left behind in the traditional market space. And some things can update themselves to, be a part of the digital world. But unfortunately, brokerage firms are a thing of the past by the looks of it. Now, American Bitcoin. Some of you might have heard of this company, some of you might not have heard of this company, but it is a mining company. So here it is. American Bitcoin, backed by Eric and Donald Trump Jr., debuts on the NASDAQ under the ticker ABTC. If you're somebody that's involved in crypto and stocks, this could be something that's interesting for you. American Bitcoin, a mining and crypto treasury company backed by President Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump, and Donald Trump Jr., launched today on the NASDAQ under the ticker ABTC. The listing came just 2 days after another Trump-linked crypto project, World Liberty Financial, went live on exchanges, making this the second crypto debut tied to the family in the same week. American Bitcoin began trading at around $6.90 per share after completing essentially an essentially all-stock merger with digital mining. The company was originally essentially a subsidiary of Hut 8, a publicly traded Bitcoin miner. Within the first hour, the stock spiked by as much as 90%, then cooled. And by 11 a.m. New York time, it was still up over 40%. By closing time, it dipped into the red with essentially a $45,000 trading volume logged before the bell went off. American Bitcoin was formed essentially in March through a merger between American Data Centers, a firm controlled by Eric and Don essentially Jr., and Hut 8, which exchanged its mining business for an 80% stake in the company, in the new company. Afterwards, the Trump brothers and Hut 8 retained 98% of ownership, leaving almost no room for outsiders in the essentially cap table, as confirmed by the Wall Street Journal. The company raised $220 million in a June private stock sale, essentially pulling in a mix of Bitcoin and cash from investors. That round included names like essentially Cameron Wiltmans and essentially Tyler, the two brothers, who essentially co-founded Gemini. The funding was used to buy additional mining equipment and expand American Bitcoin crypto reserves ahead of going public. Speaking on the NASDAQ debut, Eric, who is listed as the co-founder and chief strategy officer, said, "Our NASDAQ debut marks a historical milestone in bringing Bitcoin into the core of U.S. capital markets and advancing our mission to make America the undisputed leader of the global economy, digital economy." Eric Trump, cut from essentially crypto company, has already blown past $600 million, making it one of the clearest signs yet of how deep the first family's pocket are getting from crypto. The Trump's clan total fortune has jumped to over $6.4 billion, fueled by a mixture of fresh crypto investments. Eric's personal haul isn't listed on Bloomberg's billionaire index, but the same index says his piece of American Bitcoin alone essentially is now worth more than the combined value of 13 Trump-branded golf courses and resorts. This is quite incredible coming in from essentially Eric Trump and the Trump family. I mean, they are ranking in money so much at a very high level, which the Democratic Party hate. The idea of Trump's family succeeding in any category, the Democratic Party hates it. They criticize it. They say, how dare does Trump make all of this money? This is essentially, wrong of his family for doing this. It's not what a president or an administration should be doing, filling their pockets, which is weird coming from a Democrat, to be fairly honest. But what I would like to say is, with Democrats, they make money. When they are in power, they make money. With Trump, you can also make money alongside Trump. Because I've seen that some people, for example, on news articles, like sometimes when I see news articles and I see the comment section of these news articles, and people are criticizing, saying, oh, look, and they're always Democrats. People criticizing, or liberals, people criticizing, essentially saying, oh, look, and it's not just regular folks. Maxine Waters, Senator Elizabeth Warren, there's a lot of people who say Trump's family is stealing from American people. They're filling their pockets with American taxpaying dollars. They're scamming essentially everyone with crypto projects and so on. First of all, it's completely optional to buy any crypto project that Trump's family creates. Completely optional. Nobody's forced to buy a crypto project from Trump's family. Unlike the Democratic Party, who forced taxpayers to cough up money inside the US to send to Ukraine. So at least with Trump's administration, you get a choice. It's optional if you want to use your tax-paying money to buy his cryptocurrencies. Unlike the Democratic Party, that just use your tax-paying money to send to Ukraine or send it to Iran. But also, at least alongside Trump's family, we can make money as well by being inside the crypto sector, by profiting from the regulations coming through and going forward, the foundation that's being built. But again, there are people criticizing that. Look, you could criticize and stay poor, honestly. That's also an option. Nobody's stopping you from being poor and stupid. That's always a choice. Or you could realize what Trump's family is trying to do with the blockchain space and how they're trying to make America the capital of cryptocurrencies. And you can also profit alongside the Trump family. So honestly, people who are essentially, the Democratic leaders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Maxine Waters, if you are a supporter of Elizabeth Warren or Maxine Waters, and you're putting comments like, how dare does the Trump family make so much money on these crypto projects? They're doing this and that, and they're scamming essentially the retail section. It's optional, first of all. Second of all, nobody's forcing them. Third of all, you can make money alongside the Trump family also. Something you couldn't do with the Democratic Party. For example, Gavin Newsom. I'm guessing everybody, if you're inside the US, you know who Gavin Newsom is. And if you're outside the US, he's the moron that's essentially been controlling California pretty much for the longest time, which is in ruins, you pretty much also say as well. Gavin Newsom received a lot of money that just disappeared like a magic show, but yet he wants to become president. Gavin Newsom also essentially criticized Trump and the Trump family for creating crypto projects, yet Gavin Newsom wants to create a crypto project, ironically. Honestly, the two differences: the Democratic Party makes money for themselves. Trump makes money also for you. You just got to be smart enough to realize that he's making money for you also. Or you could listen to Senator Elizabeth Warren's perspective and stay poor. That's always an option. Now, Ukraine. Ukraine's parliament backs crypto legalization, taxation bill in the first reading. So on the topic of billions of dollars sent to Ukraine from the Democratic Party in the previous administration, Ukraine has decided to create crypto laws because they also want to lead in a crypto world, which means liquidity. This could play out positively. So Ukraine's parliament passed the first reading also. Ukraine's parliament passed the first reading of a bill to legalize and tax cryptocurrencies today. According to the lawmaker, if signed into law, the bill would significantly shape the digital asset economy in the country, which ranks among the world's top in the crypto adoption. According to Zelensky, the announcement on a Telegram channel, the bill passed the first reading with 246 lawmakers voting in support. The legislation draft outlines essentially income tax of 18% and a military tax of 5% on digital asset profits. The bill also sets essentially a 5% tax rate on fiat conversions essentially in the first year, according to the announcement. This is something that probably France is going to be doing because of their struggling economy. Macron obviously trying to not blame it on himself, but blame it on a war that he's going to be creating for no apparent reason, just to save his own arse. To be fairly honest, he might also do some sort of tax hikes in France, genuinely to save his own arse. Now, the proposed taxation rate of 23% is in line with April's recommendation of Ukraine financial regulator. The initial recommendation exempted essentially crypto to crypto and stablecoin transactions, bringing Ukraine's crypto tax system closer to crypto-friendly countries. I don't see much point in going into detail now. There will be many changes before the second reading, Zelensky said in a translated statement. It is still unknown who the regulators will be, the NBU or the National Securities and Stock Market Commission. Ukraine's parliament has been advancing crypto legislations this year as digital assets gain mainstream traction. In June, the Rada introduced a bill to establish a crypto asset reserve, and in August, Cointelegraph learned that the taxation bill will receive its first reading. Ukraine ranks 8th globally in the Chain Analysis 2025 Global Crypto Adoption Index. The country scores particularly high in centralized value received across both retail and institutional categories, and also holds a top spot in DeFi value received, a sector gaining traction in Eastern Europe. A window of opportunity has opened for attracting crypto investments and foreign assets of Ukrainian essential crypto enthusiasts. The CEO of European crypto exchange Whitebit told Cointelegraph, this is a key factor for essentially reevaluating the economy and modernizing the market space. More countries essentially are weighing tax policies for cryptocurrencies as the assets classes gain global acceptance. Over the past year, Denmark, Brazil, and the United States have each moved to address crypto taxation. Denmark's Tax Law Council recommended a bill to levy essentially taxes on the unrealized crypto gains. In this report, the Danish tax minister said that the bill approaches would be simpler way to tax crypto. It is still being considered as a proposal. In June 2025, Brazil moved to end a crypto taxation and impose a 17.5% flat tax rate on crypto gains, aimed at a government push to raise money through taxation of essentially financial markets. In July, representatives in the US lower legislative chambers were set to hold a hearing on a framework for taxation of crypto assets in the country. So, Ukraine, who ranks 8th, by the way, in the crypto index from Chain Analysis in terms of crypto innovation, of how far they've come to the transaction volume and so on, they're ranking 8th, and they're about to be increasing their taxes because their country is going into war. So they're thinking, well, Ukraine is not going to be getting any more money from the US. Europe is struggling by itself. The UK also has not much money left. So what is Ukraine thinking of doing? Taxing the crypto space. That is just pathetic. What's Ukraine going to do next? Start taxing oxygen for military budgets? Honestly, Zelensky needs to realize that it's a losing battle. Call it a day and just leave. Because the longer he continues this essentially war, it's going to get to a point, I'm not even joking, okay? It might seem funny or sound like a joke, but it's going to get to a point where, Zelensky, taxing everything he can to squeeze money to continue this war against Russia. It's going to get to a point where Zelensky has to sell his underwear just to be able to buy another type of weaponry, just to go get a stick and a rock. Honestly, it's going to get to a level where he has to sell his own clothes on eBay. I'm not even joking. We're going to get to a level where Zelensky is going to be signing up to eBay to sell his own clothes, because that's the type of level he's going to get to. Because there's no more money left. The US is not paying a single penny anymore. The UK has no money left. We have such a big hole in the UK in terms of billions of pounds just disappeared, poof, gone like a magic show. France's economy is just... European Central Bank right now is struggling to think, should we print more money? We're already struggling as well. So honestly, and the Asian countries are not going to be helping out Zelensky because they couldn't care less about Zelensky. So nobody's got money. Nobody's got anything left. Zelensky is thinking about taxing the crypto space. It's going to get to a level where Zelensky is going to be selling his own clothes on eBay just to be able to afford something. Not even joking about that one. Now, on the topic of the European Central Bank, actually, before we talk about the European Central Bank, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's going on there. And then we'll go straight into the next news on tonight's live. Let's see what's happening inside the comment section. Ray, thank you so much, brother, for the $5 donation. Absolutely amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Going straight into that hedge fund. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, brother. Genuinely, thank you. Miles, okay, no, we were here. Will Europe be dragged into war? No, we're here. Stormy, let's go. Choosing to be poor and stupid is crazy work. So many of them, though, facts. Absolutely, Miles. Stay in the blockchain alongside Trump family and gain if you're smart. Facts. Let's go, Cali. Well said, Miles. Let's go, Dazzle. Stormy, let's go. Who's gonna buy his creepy underwear is what artistic said. Dazzle, let's go. Dang, bro. Let's go, Ray. I think we should start a mouse coat of the evening today. Gone like a magic show. Now, European Central Bank. European Central Bank warns of stablecoin liquidity risk in Europe. Honestly, it's so bad for Europe where they don't even have enough fiat where they're now thinking to themselves, we don't even have enough liquidity for the stablecoin space in Europe, and Zelensky wants more money. Christian Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, has warned about the liquidity risk that stablecoin assets could pose as well. She cautions that without a quick and strong regulation, these digital assets might destabilize the financial markets across the European Union. A recent European Systematic Risk Board conference, Christian Lagarde stated that the innovation in digital assets is positive, but unregulated stablecoins pose a serious risk, especially during market essentially downturns. She pointed out that the use of stablecoins has grown faster than current regulations can keep up with, creating a concerning lack of oversight. Notably, stablecoins essentially are digital currencies backed by real-world assets, like the US dollar. They are widely used in global tradings, and Christian Lagarde urges the EU policymakers and regulators to work together to create rules that ensure stablecoins are fully backed and managed transparently and supervised by central banks. This in line with the consensus raised by global financial authorities, including the United States Financial Stability Oversight Council and the Bank for International Settlements, BIS. Recall that in April, the European Central Bank, who also raised concerns about the possible impacts of US President Donald Trump's support for cryptocurrencies. The European Central Bank believes that new US laws supporting stablecoins could affect Europe's financial markets. Although the EU's markets in crypto assets MiCA law has introduced stronger rules, the European Central Bank says they may not be enough. The central bank is especially worried about how European stablecoin issuers can work with partners outside the EU. The European Central Bank believes that this could bring outside essentially risk into Europe's financial system. As such, the European Central Bank urges EU lawmakers to make MiCA tougher to reduce these potential risks. This financial essentially bank wants more control over how stablecoins are created and stronger rules on money moving between countries. The goal is to protect Europe's financial systems from changes in US crypto policies. The introduction essentially of MiCA has been a game changer for the stablecoin ecosystem in Europe. These regulations essentially governing assets referenced on electronic money tokens being their phased rollout in June 2024, as reported by the CoinRise, Euro-dominated trading volumes have consistently exceeded 2023 averages throughout 2024. In a different view, the European Commission affirms that the MiCA rules have made it harder for companies to issue stablecoins in Europe, and the Commission explained that only 11 crypto firms have been able to pass its strict rules. One amongst essentially is Circle, and Tether obviously failed because they always fail at everything when it comes to transparency. Tether is allergic to transparency. Easiest way to put it. The Commission's statement, however, does not fully agree with the European Central Bank's warning. The Commission said the European Central Bank may be misunderstood how MiCA works. This is because the law already provides strong control over crypto risks within the European Union. Perfectly put, Shelley, inside the comment section. And Shelley put, perfect time for a reset. Exactly. That's exactly what Europe wants. Europe is essentially on the verge of no money. They need liquidity. And it's perfect time for a reset to be happening on that sense. Honestly, Europe is, one, not happy that it's still in a digital world. The dollar is essentially what's leading the world. Two, they are running out of liquidity in the fiat world unless they start printing again, which would increase their inflation over time. Or they get into a stage where they need a financial reset. And what's going to bail them out is regulations and crypto liquidity is what's going to be bailing them out, to be fairly honest, over time, not overnight. Europe has digged a very big hole. A 24-hour isn't going to be fixing Europe's situation. It's more like a decade or longer that's going to be fixing Europe's situation. But yeah, Europe honestly needs a bailout, and they're looking at crypto or stable coins as their way of bailing out of the hole that they're essentially stuck in right now. France's hole is even bigger than the European hole, let's just be honest with ourselves as well. About 1,200 agencies, retail, essentially real estate agencies have closed down in France over the past 2 years, which just shows you that the real estate space in France is horrendous, the easiest way to put it. Absolutely horrendous. Now, moving on to, I like to, I'm guessing a lot of people always like to see as well, the best part of the show, Ripple news. So tonight's Ripple news is Ripple UN backing sparks XRP hype and bold price forecast. So a report by the United Nations, the UN, Ripple's recognition by the United Nations Capital Development Fund, the UNCDF, has stirred up fresh excitement inside the crypto world, with many now farming XRP as the future backbone for global payments. Add in the looming SEC spot ETF decision that just happened today, plus some very bullish December 2025 price predictions, and the Ripple future forecast in the looking brighter than ever for investors paying attention. In the recent, essentially, UN CDF web arena, Ripple and Stellar were highlighted as essential tools for building a modern, more exclusive international payment system. Ripple and Stellar. This Ripple UN recognition isn't just symbolic, it's essentially positioning XRP as a practical solution for making cross-border payments faster, cheaper, and more reliable. But again, according to Swift, nobody's going to be using XRP or Ripple. The UNCDF, essentially, which works under the United Nations Development Programme, focuses on financial inclusion and economic opportunities for essentially underdeserved communities. By endorsing Ripple's tech, the UN is essentially saying XRP can play a crucial role in connecting global currencies and cutting the inefficiencies of traditional banking rails. Another big factor in Ripple's story right now is the pile of pending SEC spot ETF applications. According to Bloomberg's data, at least 15 XRP ETFs are under review right now, with 7 being spot ETFs that could see decisions as soon as October 2025. If approvals come through, analysts believe XRP could rally into double-digit territory before the year is out. Double-digit territory before the year is out for XRP. XRP ETFs happen in October. Double digits for XRP is what experts are predicting on that sense. Meanwhile, Ripple isn't just essentially sitting back, while for regulatory clarity, major financial networks and payment firms are actively building on Ripple's infrastructure to tackle cross-border payments challenges. From high fees to slow settlement times, these collaborations are proof that XRP's blockchain adoption is not just theoretical, it's happening. I think somebody should tell Swift team members that XRP's blockchain adoption is not just theoretical, it's happening. The UN's recognition only adds to the credibility of these partnerships, which has prompted more institutions to elevate XRP as a reliable, scalable option for moving money across borders. While Ripple's UN recognition pending SEC ETF approvals and deepening institutional adoption, XRP may be starting at one of the biggest rallies is essentially in its history. If regulatory hurdles are cleared, analysts see a realistic path to $10 to $16 by December 2025. Now, 16 Research also gave their predictions a while ago on XRP by the end of the year. Their prediction was essentially low end, we're looking at $10 to $30. High end, we're looking at $60 to $100. It's just an outcome. It's not the outcome or the final verdict in any sort of way. That's one research company. And these are other analysts that are predicting $10 to $16 if we get the approvals for the ETFs happening in October. That's not just bullish. It's the kind of setup that essentially could trigger widespread FOMO among retail traders while also pulling in billions from institutional players through ETF structures for Ripple. December 2025 could be the moment it finally cements itself as a heavyweight in the global financial sector when it comes to XRP. By the end of this year, XRP essentially, in their eyes, in their words, in the UN's words, let's just say in a sense as well, it's going to be cementing itself as a pioneer inside the financial sector, which is going to make Swift cry even more. Also Litecoin, also Chainlink lovers. Who else is left out? Or the moron, essentially, influencers who still hate on XRP for clickbait videos. But yes, all of those morons and the Chainlink lovers, or the Bitcoin maxis and so on, they're going to be crying even more when XRP reaches those levels. Honestly, I said this before and I'll say it again. Once XRP gets its ETFs it needs, there's a reason why it has essentially 15 ETFs. That's according to Bloomberg's data. 15 XRP ETFs roughly, which is crazy compared to the amount of Solana ETFs or AVAX ETFs or Cardano ETFs or HBAR ETFs or XLM ETFs and so on. There's a reason why XRP has 15 ETF applications. That means all of those firms, behind them is their client base, and every single one of them pretty much wants to buy XRP. And according to Swift, nobody likes XRP. Nobody wants to use XRP. And that's why XRP has 15 ETF applications. Yes, because nobody wants to buy it apparently, but yet it has 15 ETF applications. The numbers just don't add up, does it? Honestly. Also, I made a thread today regarding XRP, regarding essentially shutting down every moron's opinion on XRP and the Chainlink lovers and the Bitcoin maxis and the Ethereum gates and the influencers. Go and check it out if you haven't checked out my thread today that I posted. This is also the endings of tonight's live. Honestly, XRP's future looks brighter and brighter as the day goes by. Don't even worry for a second if you are worried, which I don't think you are. But if you are, don't even bother worrying. XRP's future is extremely bright. It has always been extremely bright. On that note, we have come to the endings of tonight's live, even revealing the UN report, which is amazing. We have come to the endings of tonight's live. This was the CMF Live. This was episode 366 of the CMF Live. Episode 367 will be tomorrow. 367 will be tomorrow. Honestly, it was amazing. Love you all. I'm still on the meds, if anybody's wondering. Also, I'm boiling up for some reason. I think I'm getting a temperature. I'm not really sure, I'll be honest. I'm boiling up right now. I've been boiling up halfway through the show. But I love doing these live shows. You know, I love going live. I love seeing the CMF inside the comment section. I love all the likes and retweets essentially we get from the CMF and growing this family, expanding this family. So that's why even when I am ill and slight blocked nose, slight sore throat, and the LED ring light is not really helping my headache situation, and also boiling up right now for some reason, I still want to do these live shows for all of you. So I appreciate every single one of you that likes and retweets these live shows and puts a comment outside the live. Honestly, thank you so much to everybody who likes and retweets these live shows. If you haven't liked and retweeted these live shows, thank you so much, honestly. And if you followed and subscribed, thank you so much as well. It's happening, guys. Thanks. Let's go to the comment section before we do leave, obviously. And, you know, if you want to yourself, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news on cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations. Tune in Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And all right, let's go Stormy. Facts, let's go Dazzle, let's go Shelly. It's happening, guys. Let's go Dazzle. So anything under $3 is a steal for XRP, pretty much. 9 Miles of CMF, amazing show as always. See you all tomorrow. Joe, see you tomorrow same time as usual. 9 Miles of CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow same time as usual. Thank you, Miles. Let's go Stormy. See you tomorrow same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night. And see you tomorrow same time, same place. Let's go Autistic. See you tomorrow same time as usual. Good night, everyone. Stormy, see you tomorrow same time as usual. Thank you, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow. Mike, see you tomorrow about the same time as usual. Great show, good information as usual. Let's go, Curtis. See you tomorrow same time as usual. Good night, Miles and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live show and news. Let's go, JP. See you tomorrow same time as usual. Let's go. Can't fool us. Let's go, Dazzle. See you tomorrow same time as usual. Miles, get better. Let's go. Susie, see you tomorrow same time as usual. XRP. Let's go, Dazzle. Let's go, Autistic. And good night, Miles, and good night, CMF, for another great show. Let's go, Frankie Brothers. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Rest up. That's not good. That's all. Thanks for all you do for our CMF family. Night all. Let's go, Shelly. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great live, Miles, as usual. Hope you get better soon. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Facts. Well, take care, Miles and CMF. Great live. Get some rest, brother. Great job. Let's go, Ray. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Take care, Miles, and get an early night, brother. Let's go, Funky Brother. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night and love. Good night and love to everyone. Hope you get back on your feet soon, brother. Let's go, Dazzle. See you tomorrow, brother. Same time as usual. You are truly the Iron Man, Miles. Let's go, Mike. Thank you so much for the kind words. See you tomorrow, brother. Same time as usual. Thank you, Miles. Good night, old Lena. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thank you so much, Miles. Great live tonight. Have a great night. Stay strong. I'll see you tomorrow. Carlos, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Miles, influencers, how want to make clear what is XRP or new or never good as you. Good night. Kali, thank you so much for the kind words as well. I'll see you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. The disclaimer of this live, as always, has been not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. See everybody tomorrow. Like, comment, retweet, follow, subscribe if you already haven't. If you have, thank you so much. Love you all. See you all tomorrow, same time as usual, for episode 367.